today. Russia's president is given less than 2 weeks to make progress toward peace in Ukraine or face secondary sanctions from the US. President Trump breaks with Israel in calling out starvation happening in Gaza. And he asks a court to make media mogul Rupert Murdoch answer questions in his defamation suit. It's Tuesday, July 29th. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes every weekday. I'm Kim Vanel in Wanganui, New Zealand. Four people, including a police officer, are dead after a gunman walked into a skyscraper office in New York and opened fire.
The building's security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. He then shoots a woman who took cover behind a pillar and proceeds through the lobby, spraying it with gunfire.
New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says the gunman then allowed a woman to get out of an elevator unharmed before getting in the elevator himself.
He goes up to the 33rd floor, which is route and management, and begins to walk the floor, firing rounds as he traveled. Police say he shot and killed one person on that floor before fatally shooting himself. The shooter has been identified as 27-year-old Shane Tamura. He'd travelled cross-country from Las Vegas to New York in recent days. His motive for the shooting is unknown. And 3 people have been killed in another shooting in Reno, Nevada. That shooting happened in the parking lot of the Grand Sierra Resort. Police shot the suspect, who is now in a critical condition in hospital. US President Donald Trump has set a new deadline for Russia to make progress toward ending the war in Ukraine or face consequences. He had set a 50-day deadline. He now says Moscow has between 10 and 12 days. Andrea Shalal is following Trump on his trip in Scotland. Andrea, why did Trump move this up?
Trump has been getting frustrated for quite some time because this is a president who ran on ending the Ukraine war on his first day in office. And he feels like he's made progress on these other promises. He's imposed huge tariffs and he's seeing that through. And I think he's become gravely disenchanted with Putin for not, I think he thought he had more clout with Putin than he does. And he misunderstood the dynamics there.
So what happens if there's no progress after this deadline?
What the U.S. has in its power is to really crack down on something called secondary sanctions. These secondary sanctions are a very powerful tool because they go after the ways that business is done. So you don't just sell Russian oil and it miraculously appears on the other side of the world. You have to have ships and financial services that carry out the transaction, that carry the fuel, that bring it over to another port. And all of those countries and actors that are participating in that, if they mean it seriously with the secondary sanctions, then they can go after them.
President Trump has broken with US ally Israel, saying that many people are starving in Gaza. He's even suggested Israel could do more to allow access for aid.
Helpful. So we're going to set up food centers and where the people can walk in. We can save a lot of people. I mean, some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be...
That assessment puts Trump at odds with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said on Sunday there is no starvation in Gaza. The US is joining Israel, however, in boycotting a UN summit dedicated to finding a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians. There, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called on nations to take action.
Precisely because of the grim realities, we must do even more to realize the two-state solution. We must ensure that it does not become another exercise in well-meaning rhetoric.
The US has called the summit a publicity stunt. Another American university is coming under the scrutiny of President Trump. The administration is initiating a probe into Duke University and the Duke Law Journal over alleged race-related discrimination. The Education Department says it's looking into whether the university considers race, colour or national origin when selecting Law Journal members. And in more Trump news, the president has asked a US court to order a swift deposition for billionaire Rupert Murdoch in his defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal. The president is suing the journal, its owners, including Murdoch, and the reporters, for their article claiming Trump's name was on a 2003 birthday greeting for late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Legal reporter Luke Cohen has been covering the lawsuit. So Luke, why is Trump going after Rupert Murdoch, who is, by all accounts, one of the president's allies?
So Trump wants Rupert Murdoch to sit for a deposition or questioning under oath in this case because he says that Murdoch has information that would help Trump make his case that the Wall Street Journal story was false and they knew it was false. So Trump says that after the Wall Street Journal reached out to his office for comment on the story, Trump then called up Murdoch and told him, oh, this birthday greeting is fake. So Trump says that conversation effectively put Murdoch and thus the whole entire Wall Street Journal on notice that the story was going to be false. And so he needs Murdoch to testify under oath in order to help him make that case in his lawsuit. He also says that, Murdoch is 94. He has had health issues in the past, effectively saying he may not make it to a trial. And so we need to depose him now.
And so what's the legal bar Trump has to pass here for his defamation effort to get anywhere?
In order to win this lawsuit, Trump, because he is a public figure in the U.S., needs to clear what's known as the actual malice standard. That means it's not enough for him just to show that the letter was false. He has to show that the Wall Street Journal and its reporters either knew it was false, recklessly disregarded the truth, so, didn't do basic due diligence to find out whether or not it was false. It's important to note, of course, that the Journal stands behind its reporting, and a Dow Jones spokesperson says, they will vigorously defend against the lawsuit.
US and Chinese officials are set to begin their second day of talks in Stockholm, aimed at extending a tariff truce. Day one of their talks lasted 5 hours with no progress. As Trump's August 1st deadline for tariff deals with a swath of countries looms, Canada's leader says the country should be prepared for at least some levies.
The negotiations are at an intense phase. It's a complex negotiation. You see with the various trade deals that have been agreed by other jurisdictions, European Union.
The US president has threatened Canada with tariffs of up to 35% on some imports. Military commanders from Thailand and Cambodia are holding talks after a truce was called in their border conflict. Displaced residents are trickling back after an agreement to end 5 days of fighting was reached. At least 40 people have been killed and more than 300,000 displaced in the dispute. It's the deadliest outbreak of violence between the nations in a decade. In China's capital, Beijing, torrential rain has killed at least 30 people. Some 80,000 people were relocated as the rain hit. Remaining residents are being advised not to leave their homes. Firefighters in Bulgaria try to dampen the perimeter of a wildfire as it engulfs the village of Kozarevo. Fires are burning across parts of southeast Europe, including Greece and Albania. Parts of the region have experienced record temperatures over the past week, with fires fanned by strong winds. And finally today, Queen Bee has retained her title. Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour is now the highest-grossing country tour of all time, with over $400 million in revenue, according to events promoter Live Nation. Beyoncé has spoken candidly about not feeling welcomed in the country genre despite her Texas roots, after she became the first Black woman to win Best Country Album at the 2025 Grammy Awards. And for today's recommended read, how Trump policies are reshaping the role of federally owned land against the tide of US public opinion. Reuters reporters have dug into the history and the data, mapping out where federal land use is changing and what impact it's having. We'll put a link to that story in today's podcast description. For more on any of the stories from today, be sure to check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. And don't forget to follow us on your favourite podcast player. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.